Hello and welcome again to the RaueCast, your podcast hub for all things Roue Center related, a little behind the scenes of Roue Center's activities and everything Roue centric. Pleased today to be joined by some of the cast and creative team of William Street Repertory's upcoming production of Native Gardens. William Street Repertory, of course, is the award-winning in-house theater company here at Roue Center. Thrilled to get back to live theater, which has been on a hiatus since the pandemic shut us down in 2020. Native Gardens marks a return to that, and we are thrilled to have the director, Michele Vazquez, as well as the sound designer and a couple of the actors with us today to talk about it. Native Gardens opens up on Friday, February 23rd, and runs Thursday through Sunday until closing on Saturday, March 16th. So, of course, you can find your tickets at RaueCenter.org and find a show that works for you, because this is going to be a great one. Before we jump in here and get into some of the finer details, I thought maybe we could just head around the horn here and everyone could introduce yourself and tell us what you're doing, what your position is for Native Gardens. So, Michele, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Michele Vazquez. I am the director of Native Gardens.
And Lindsay?
Hi, I'm Lindsay Burdsall. I'm the sound designer for Native Gardens.
And Kelli?
Hi, I'm Kelli Walker, and I am understudying the role of Virginia Butley.
And last but not least, Peter.
Hello, I'm Peter Briceño Gertas, and I will be playing Pablo in Native Gardens.
Awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. Michele, I want to start with you. So you're the director of this piece. Without giving too much away, of course, can you tell us a little bit about the play and what the audience might expect when they come and see it?
Well, Native Gardens is about two couples that live next to each other. One of the couples is an older couple, well-established in a DC suburb, Frank and Virginia. They have a beautiful home and a beautiful garden. And there's new members. A younger couple moves in next door to them, ready to have their first child. They have big plans for their backyard. And there's a little bump in the road when they discover that their fence line is actually in the wrong place. So hilarity ensues, conflict ensues. It's a wonderful, I think, comedy of manners for our time. Funny, and the topics of how people deal with conflict, how they communicate, and there are our own little prejudices and just what it means to be human and trying to communicate with other people.
Terrific. Now, Michele, it's my understanding that Native Gardens was originally slated to be produced back in 2020. And you were right on the verge of opening up when, of course, COVID happened and the pandemic shut everything down. When you came back to this, did you find that like a lot of the work was kind of already done, or was this like clean slate, had to start from square one on everything, or was it somewhere in between?
Well, I think the assumption is that some of that work would have been done already, but in more ways than one, the more common truth is that we had to start from the beginning. A lot of the set pieces were still created and still there in pieces. After 4 years, part of them have been dismantled, used for other items. So really, we had to start from scratch. And largely a new team entirely. We had only one returning cast member, and most of the designers were returning, but we all were really starting from square one, which I think is part of the process. I think you really want to start fresh and come to it with new eyes and some new ideas. You have a new cast, new people, new energies in the room, and you really want to honor that.
Wonderful. So we have a new cast, of course, and Kelli and Peter, both of you are are part of the new cast coming into this. I'd love to hear a little bit about the roles that you play. Kelli, we'll start with you. Now, you said that you were understudying the role of Virginia, but it's my understanding you have some guaranteed performances during this run. Is that true?
I do, and that is such a delight, and the whole experience is a delight. And I don't say that just because Michele is listening in. Um, I'm actually maybe a rare actor. I really enjoy understudying in the right situation, which for me is good people, a good script, an opportunity for me to listen and learn and observe. And the acting is sort of secondary, might not be the right word, but it's my job as an understudy to um, watch and live in the performance as much as I can that Shannon Mayhall's doing, that whom I'm understudying. Um, and usually understudies aren't guaranteed performances unless there's illness or conflict. But the Rau has worked with Shannon and myself, and so I am so tickled to get to cover Thursday matinees, which I understand is a new offering for the community, and I think we'll have a really good time on Thursday afternoons. And so the experience has been great. I think understudies are equally as hard for the other actors on stage because they're used to one person's energy and sound and being and presence, and have to adjust when understudies are tagged in and out. So it's been a great experience. I'm grateful.
And you sort of bring in a new energy and keep the rest of the cast on their toes, right?
I hope. I hope in a good
Now,
way.
have you found that in this particular process, as you did have guaranteed performances and stuff, was there any extra collaboration between you and Shannon? Did you guys talk about the role a little bit more than if you were in a more typical understudy position?
That is a great question, James. And I think the answer is yes. And Shannon and I know each other. Shannon knows Michele. Um, I think we all are sort of naturally curious and collaborative. And so I feel like the door has just been wide open for asking questions. I mean, I would always defer to whatever Shannon's and Michelle's choices are. Ultimately, I will endeavor to do my best to do that. But I feel like it's been really collaborative and fun for the three of us to collaborate.
Terrific. Peter, I want to throw it over to you. Now, Native Gardens, the play has been around for a little while. It's not that old, but did you have any prior experience with the play before auditioning and being a part of this production?
No, not really. This was sort of a recommendation from somebody that I was working with previously to come on over to this project. And in reading the play, it's so interesting because when I first read it, I was like, oh wow, this is a mountain of work to do. And then now that we are kind of getting closer and closer to show open, I'm realizing just how fast this show is and just how energetic, just like it starts and then it doesn't stop until it's done kind of production. Almost very like I was having a conversation with my understudy about it feels almost sort of like a Greek play where it ramps up, it ramps up, it ramps up, and then the ending is just the payoff of all of the energetic motion that we have from the get-go.
Perhaps less tragedy and more
comedy.
That's great. What a surprise. Were there any other surprises that you found, Peter, as you've been sort of working through this play? Is there anything in particular about the role that you're playing that you've grown to love that maybe you didn't see beforehand, or was there anything you identified right away and said like, "Oh, I can't wait to get my teeth into this role"?
Yeah, one of the things that has surprised me is how much I'm having to combat myself, and I'm physically a very gestury person, a very almost like gummy person, and trying to find a characterization or a physicality that is much more in vein of a 35-year-old lawyer, and trying to find like how am I a partner? When does the mask of I'm a lawyer and this is my kind of like litigator attitude drop because I'm now in the company of my partner and now I'm having this fight with my neighbor, and where do those moments of, oh, very much someone who is like me or has relationships the way that I do drop in the sake of who this person is and what he does, was something that I'm like, oh wow, that was very interesting and cool to explore.
Terrific. Terrific. So, Lindsay, I want to pop it across the table over to the design aspect of this production. You are the sound designer for Native Gardens, and as I understand it, you're squeezing this podcast into your workday. So, I appreciate you being here with us today. Can you speak a little bit about your journey as a sound designer in this project? I think you also, like Peter and Kelli, are brand new to this production. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes. So I am brand new to this production of Native Gardens, but Michele and I have worked together in the past in this capacity. So I am, it is a little bit like revisiting an old friend in some ways, but new to this particular show. And the process is always really wonderful with Michele specifically because she has a great connection to music. And so from the beginning, we can come in and have those conversations over this feels like this, or this sounds like this, or I was listening to the Spotify playlist and this song resonated with me, which many times as a sound designer, you're bringing those elements into the room and trying to sort of tell that story. And some directors connect to that and some directors don't. So we always have a tendency to start with a really great language base and finding the moments in between, because the timeline of this show is tight. And then in between scenes, we have to transition time, figuring out how we take the last moment of a previous scene and carry that over into the new scene has been a big focus of our conversations. And because, and I don't want to give away too much, but we're out in the gardens for a lot of this show. There's a lot of conversations about, what are we listening to? Is it crickets? Is it birds? Is it dogs? You know, what is the atmosphere of this suburb, and how does the garden that was established and that existed, how does that sound? How does it sound to the people who are in it and who created it? And how does it sound to the people who are entering into it and are experiencing it for maybe the first time? And as Michele said, we have different feelings about what's in those different spaces, and how can I share that with the audience to say, oh, this makes so-and-so uncomfortable. And how do we do that with subtle movement and sound and subtle changes in what that atmosphere sounds like.
So you're working with both like sort of musical, like songs and scores, and you're building soundscapes for the outdoor spaces and whatnot for the show.
Yes. Yep.
So let me ask you though, as a sound designer, do you have, obviously, I mean, the song catalogs, you have access to, like you said, Spotify playlists and things like that. But as far as building a soundscape goes, do you have a library of like cricket sounds 1 through 42, and here's my door slams 1 through 18? Do you have like a big sort of lexicon of sound effects at your fingertips?
Yeah, I do actually. Over the years, just working with other designers and getting access to, BBC has an extensive sound effects library, and so it has been really wonderful going back to this process and exactly that, searching the word cricket and then listening. Okay, this one is they literally put a microphone up into a cricket. This one, they put a microphone to a cricket in a jar, and you can hear it bounce around the jar. So that's not going to help us because we don't need the jar cricket. We need the outside cricket. And sometimes, other creators have actually gone out into fields or gone into backyards and recorded these soundscapes, and you get that real sound of what that experience is. Got to do research on where we're going to be, because nighttime in Arizona is going to sound different than nighttime in DC. So finding out the real situation, what you're actually going to hear, and the next step that I have learned over my journey with sound design is what people expect to hear. Because I may play the sound of a mosquito, but if that's not what you connect to be a mosquito, that moment's not going to play for you in the same way that it would. So sometimes we even find the cartoony versions of some of these sounds, because that's what your brain says. Yeah, that's a bee, that's a mosquito, that's a cricket. And it may be a grasshopper. It might be we run into it a lot with lions and tigers and bears. Their actual sounds and what we have heard our whole lives for lions and tigers and bears are actually very different things.
Oh,
Just a
no
thing you
kidding.
know as a sound designer.
Oh, that's fascinating. Is there any sound or effect in this show that you've actually had to pull that kind of switcheroo on us for? Is there anything we might be able to listen for in this
Not
one?
at this point. I think we're
Okay.
going to have we want to create a little bit of personality for some of the bugs that we're going to interact with for this,
Don't
for
give
this
anything away.
production, correct? So there may have to be a little bit of manipulation there when it comes to anthropomorphizing our insects that exist in this space. So we'll leave that to the audience to know that moment or not.
Excellent. So there obviously some technical elements still to be worked out. And as I understand it, you are now heading into Tech Week for the production. Michele, I want to throw this back on you. Can you talk to us a little bit about Tech Week, what you're expecting, and some of the work that's to be done here before you open up here?
For those people who don't know what Tech Week is that final 2 to 3 day period right before, we call it a week because it feels like a week. It is a week essentially for production. But for the actors, it's really only 2 to 3 days where everything comes together. So the sound designer, the lighting designer, costume designer, props, everything, all the elements get added back into the play. The actors are probably touching things and stepping on a set that they've never seen before. They've only worked with it in terms of taped out boundaries in a rehearsal room. So it's when all of those elements come together and actors get to feel what it is to actually live through the transition when the lights change and the music plays and all that, all those elements. And it's really exciting. It's an exciting time. It's a stressful time because, as you can imagine, you found the play, and then you kind of lose the play for a little bit because everything is so new, and then you have to refine the play again. So it's always an exciting time and it's a little bit of a stressful time, but it's that trial by fire kind of period in the theater when everything comes together. So we're at the end of our 4th week of rehearsal, and now we'll have tech starting Sunday. And we'll start with the paper tech, which means all the designers get together with myself and we lay it out on paper, like how everything is supposed to go. And then we fold the actors into all of that. So, yeah.
So you lay out how it's supposed to go, and then
how
the
we
actors come in
imagine
and
it will
everything goes
go.
out the window, huh?
Yes. And then, of course, reality sets in when you get everybody in the room and you go, oh, well, no, that's probably not exactly the right sound there, or that's maybe we need a different light cue there. And then all of those conversations start to happen. So
Wonderful. Well, I think that covers everything that we were going to talk about today. Native Gardens, as I said, opens up on Friday, February 23rd, and it will run Thursday through Sundays until it closes on Saturday, March 16th. So it's sort of skipping around the calendar a little bit there. So if you're interested in tickets, head over to RaueCenter.org. You can find tickets there. Come out and support these tremendous artists. The show has been a long time coming, and we're all excited for the return of William Street Repertory. So, Michele, Kelli, Peter, Lindsay, thank you so much for joining us today. And break legs through Tech Week, and I'll see you on opening night.
thank you.
Thank you.